Live and in color from the NBC News radio broadcasting studios of KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM, located in beautiful Southern California, and in parallel from the Turf's Up radio studio in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Thanks for tuning in to the Water Zone Show this evening. Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending where you are in this wonderful world, and I hope everybody's doing well. Thanks for tuning in to the Water Zone Show. I'm Rob Starr. Miss Tara Malali is at a company Christmas party today, and she, as you all know, works for United Water Conservation District, and so I hope she's having a good time, and I told her she doesn't have to drive in because I'm sure they're going to be partying hardy. So anyway, I hear a lot of background noise. I don't know where that's coming from, but sounds like somebody's having a party. Anyway, there we go. Well, I'd like to have our favorite lady on, who's very famous, and a lot of her peeps call in to talk to her, and she is just the most wonderful lady that I know. So I'd like to welcome Miss Chris. Are you there, Chris? And it's Miss Chris Austin, to be formal.
Yes. Happy holidays, everyone. We are headed into the season.
Absolutely.
And, we are headed into some rainy period of time, too. So, Merry Christmas to California. We're actually getting some rain. It's been very, very dry couple of weeks. So.
I heard that. But I had a couple of things to you, maybe just to get you and get our audience. I know Chris Davey would probably do this, but he has better jokes than I'd have. But, the gingerbread man was really excited about getting his present. And what do you think he wished for?
I don't know.
A cookie sheet. and then one of the ornaments on the tree, what do you think he said to the person next to him?
I don't know.
I like hanging with you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There you go.
Yep. And why? Well, what was the other one? What do you call a chicken at the North Pole?
I don't know.
Lost. Well, that's the only
chicken dinner. We had a chicken running loose at our house in Southern California, loose on the back hill, and so we called her chicken dinner.
Well, that's a good thing to do. So I understand from what I read today in your blogs that we're looking for 8 straight days of rain coming up.
Yeah, here in Northern California. Now I am sitting here in Chico, and we have been stopped in with this god-awful fog cloud that stretches the whole length of the Central Valley from Redding to Bakersfield, and has been 3 weeks and counting. And I'm telling you, it's gray every day, and at night it kind of comes down to the earth and gets a little foggy. Then in the daytime it rises up. But I went up to Reno last week and I got to see sun, and it was glorious. Now I'm back here in the gray. So we are really hoping that these storms are going to come in and knock out this very persistent fog bank. That may or may not happen, but we'll see. But yes, and it's been very dry, and now we have rain coming, and lots of it, apparently. So, the Pacific storm door is open again. Yay! So
they say it's like having a dream when you're going through this.
It's pretty weird.
And it's big. I mean, it runs, 450 miles between Redding and Bakersfield.
Oh, yeah. And, you just drive out of it as you're going up in the hill. You'll just, you drive straight out of it. You're like, oh, wow, sunshine, beautiful blue sky. So we are looking forward to this. So, we're hoping for a lot of good rain and a lot of snow. We'll see. This is, it could be a warmer storm. And also, it seems to be really centered more on Oregon than California, so I don't think we are getting the full strength of it. But nonetheless, we have precipitation coming, and we are very happy about that. So, and that precipitation could stretch down to Southern California as well. So,
I'm sure the people up further north of you are going to appreciate it, especially coming into Christmas.
Oh, I'll tell you, these storms have really been hitting the Pacific Northwest very strongly, like Washington. Just a lot of flooding, a lot of misery up in Washington. These are the atmospheric river storms that usually come and hit Northern California, and they were very famous in the Russian River for causing these massive floods. And we learned a lot about, there used to be the Pineapple Express, but we've learned a lot about those storms. But, in these years when that jet stream is tracked a little farther north, we get kind of left out of the precipitation. Yeah. And, Washington, they've got a lot of rain, but they don't get rain in this kind of amount. So, they are, it's been very destructive, and, their infrastructure is having difficulty handling it. California, we're a lot more used to these big storms, so our infrastructure is sized a little more appropriately. But, Washington and Oregon can send us our precipitation back, and I'm sure they would really love to.
Oh, sure. Would you know the last time the cycle, because everything, as you reported before, like you just said, is starting to move further north. And do you know when that was the last time that happened? I mean, are we going through a cycle stage that we're going to, not have as much water, rain, and then it's going to come back again to us and start all over again? Do you know?
Well, I can't, we're just talking empirical knowledge, I guess. I can remember there was a couple of years ago where, it was also the atmospheric river storms, were hitting farther north, and we were like, hey guys, that's our precipitation.
Yeah.
Stop taking our precipitation. So it's happened before. Things are changing on the planet, and it's not unheard of that the jet stream, takes different paths, but climate change is sort of speeding up some of these cycles a little bit. So.
We did a couple of years ago, if you remember, probably about 3 or 4 years ago, we had some people on who does cloud seeding, and I don't hear much about that anymore. Is that still relevant?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And actually, it has created a bit of attention because there's a lot of conspiracy theories behind the government controlling the weather, and cloud seeding is seen as possibly one way that the government does that. And, there have been times like when there's been one of those heavy drenching storms, I think, that hit Southern California like last fall. And then people heard that the Santa Ana watershed program had been seeding the clouds. So there was a lot of, theories behind, the fact that that it's their fault that rain came, which is not the case. It's not. It doesn't really happen that way. But it's a kind of a conspiracy theory, Marjorie Taylor Greene type of thing, where they think that the government can control the weather, and there are people that were saying with Hurricane Helene that the government created that hurricane or was controlling that hurricane, which is just it's impossible. A hurricane swirling like that in the South Atlantic, there's nothing that we can do one way or the other.
You need a pretty big fan to blow it further.
And it's cloud seeding is, it's been studied for many years, and it's really hard to. You can't really do an A/B test. You can't see one watershed and not the other, and be able to compare results because it depends on the clouds and the topography and so many things that are happening when you do it. But the best they've been able to say is that, yeah, they think it works and it does increase the precipitation a little bit, but I think the numbers are kind of like 10 to 20%, not overwhelming. And you can only seed clouds when there are clouds available to be seeded. So if you have, big, beautiful, blue, dry skies, there's nothing you can do about that.
I had read a couple of years ago, and I don't know how true a story is, like you were just telling us, and that the military is looking at things like that to when they're fighting in different places like Afghanistan and other things to try to change the weather, or they're looking into things to do that because they think that would be a good thing to do, so it can maintain the enemy in a certain area and won't let them proceed further and things like that. But you're right. I hear so many stories about these things. You never know what's real, what's not real. Just like this like A1 Atlas comet or whatever it is that's flying around and coming here for doomsday. It's going to crash. It's going to crash into the earth and wipe us out. And and they have all these names of people. But I find out with AI, you don't know if these are the real people talking or they're made up, copies of it. Just doing this report. So I hate that. I know maybe people think it's great for entertainment, but I don't. If I turn on something and want to hear news, I want to hear real news. I don't want to hear fake news.
Yeah, and I'm very skeptical about conspiracy theories because, the way I look at it is more than a handful of people have to keep their mouths shut about it. And I'm talking like 2 or 3. If there's anything more than that, then I just don't believe it's possible. And if you ask me why, I will ask you, how many times have you told a friend a secret only to have them tell somebody else?
Exactly
People
right.
just cannot keep a secret. And if revealing that secret could result in financial gain, I kind of poo-poo most conspiracy theories.
Well, you know my saying, in God we trust, all others bring data to prove it to us. As a science guy, that's what I want to see. I want to see the clear facts and nothing but. Hey, but here you got. I hear there's another subject you wrote on, which I thought was really interesting. In Central California, Representatives Costa and Gray are proposing a $4.4 billion for Central Valley water projects.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's a comprehensive package of 3 bills. The Central Valley Water Solution Act, which would authorize 21 projects south of the Delta for regional water storage capacity. 21. I wasn't aware there was 21 out there, but I guess these GSAs and stuff have plans. And a Water Agency and Transparency Enhancement Review Act that would, codify certain provisions of Executive Order 14181, which is Trump's executive order on California water, and the Build Now Act for enforceable timelines for environmental reviews. We'll see how this, we'll see how it goes. There's some good stuff in here. We have a lot of canals that are damaged by subsidence due to overpumping of groundwater. And when you have a sinking canal, it's a multi-million-dollar, hundreds of millions of dollars to repair, and not the kind of thing that the farmers, who have been pumping the groundwater can afford to pay.
Right.
So we really have to provide funding to fix these canals, and it's important to fix these canals if you want to be putting water into storage, putting water into groundwater storage or even surface storage, you have to be able to get the water from where it is to where you want to store it. And when you have these sinking canals, it's really causing capacity issues and difficulty in moving the water. So, there's some good things into it. We'll see where it goes. But the real story this week, Rob, is they're having a big meeting in Las Vegas this week. It's a meeting that happens every year, the Colorado River Water Users Association.
Right.
And here they are. They are all meeting and trying yet again to come up with some solution for dwindling Colorado water supplies. And this, boy, have we been talking about this for at least 2 years. Yeah. And they just, the feds have put out deadline after deadline, and each deadline has been passed without an ability to come to any kind of decision. And now we are really, really winding down to the last moment, because we have to have new rules in place by August of 2026, or theoretically those rules revert to some rules written back in the 1970s, which just aren't going to work. Yep. So something has to be done. They have to come to an agreement. California came into town, into Las Vegas, and threw a framework down onto the table. It includes a pledge to save 440,000 acre feet. They need at least 1.5 million acre feet of water to be, that they have to cut between those states. At least 1.5. It could go up to as far as 2.5 million acre feet. So 440,000 is a bit of a drop in the bucket, but at least it's a start. And at least they came in and had something to propose. I haven't seen any other state come in and propose anything in the coverage that I've read. And the feds, the reclamation has said that come January, they're going to be releasing their draft environmental impact statement for different management options for the Colorado River. But what's interesting is they're not going to choose a preferred alternative. They're just going to put out all of this analysis on these different alternatives, and somewhere they hope between January and August that there's some sort of decision that has been made. I mean, they're coming down to the wire. They're going to have to start making some decisions here. They're going to have to start moving. They just can't afford to sit on the fence anymore. We'll see what happens. This is a big meeting, and, all the bigwigs are there, and they're talking, so we will hope that happens. Meanwhile, things, on the Colorado River just continue to get worse. And, we're looking at the possibility of, Lake Powell getting close to the minimum pool of water that they can have for hydropower production. And hydropower on the Colorado River is a pretty big deal.
Oh, yeah.
What, when all those people turn on their air conditioners, come in the hot months, that's when all the dams start running making the hydropower, running the water through the turbines. So,
well, that's why they came up with the term "dark days ahead."
Yeah.
Turn the lights off. I hope these people in government don't be like soccer players who kick the ball down the field.
Well,
they got to make concessions. They got to make concessions and be fair about it. And each is going to have to give. You've always said this. You've always said that they could just come to the meeting and list on the table what things can they agree on first, and start off a relationship that's positive instead of you got to do it this way or no, you can't do it this way. And it always happens.
Well, I think that it's just a very difficult task because, uh, you know, these cuts are going to be painful. There's just no other way about it. They're going to be deep and they're going to be painful, and they have just been avoiding, avoiding the risk, the thought of it, and it's just, time has come. Uh, we'll see how this all, plays out. But somebody's got to get off the pot. Pitch or get off the pot, and they got to start moving. We'll see.
Absolutely. So one of the questions that you had in your commentary today was, will the Delta pumps operate at capacity this winter with all these storms coming?
Yeah, we got storms coming. We have environmental regulations. We have new, rules for running the federal water projects that differ from the from the state water project rules. We're going to see how this goes. The federal project operating rules are a bit looser than that's what's for the state. And theoretically, if the Central Valley project, the federal project, pumps more, the state may be obligated to pump less. So we'll see how that all plays out.
Yeah.
And we also have can we will we, if we get a lot of storms, are we going to have enough places to put the water?
That's true.
Things are pretty full in the San Luis Reservoir, which is the largest reservoir south of Delta that both the federal and state projects store water in. And last week, at the Metropolitan Water Resources meeting, they talked about how they've been told that there could be the possibility of Article 21 water, which is when there's water running through the system and the state has no place to put it. If somebody says, I can take that water, I can put it someplace, then they'll give you that water. A lot of projects hope for Article 21 water because if you don't need a water right, you just have to have a water project contract in the mix. So there is a federal equivalent of that too. So with these big storms coming in and with San Luis Reservoir kind of full, there's a lot of people gearing up to hopefully take some water and store it away. So we'll be hoping for that.
We sure hope so. So any last important things? I know there's so many things going on in water around, and you cover everything, but what are we missing?
Oh,
give us one last shot.
Well, oh gosh, now you're catching me off guard. I don't know. White Christmas. Let's dream of a white Christmas. Let's hope that we get some snow for the skiers in Tahoe.
I agree with you very much. So, all right. Well, we're going to be off. Let our listeners know we're going to be off for 2 weeks for our Christmas and New Year's, and because we all need a break sometime, and we need to take one. Actually, take two, and then we'll be back on January. What is that? The 8th, 9th. I'm thinking over my head. We'll be back on the 8th with a gentleman named Dr. Peter Frisk. And he's with the Lawrence Livermore Laboratory up at Berkeley, and he's going to come on and talk about some things about water. And actually, he's going to join you on the introduction of the show and stick around. And then when you say parting for the knife and it's dinner time, then he stays on for the rest of the interview. So that's going to be a great show. And he's an avid listener of you. He's also a subscriber to your stuff. So he's a good guy. So. Anyway, you have a wonderful and safe Christmas and New Year's, and I hope you get everything you want, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
All right. Happy holidays, everyone.
All right. Thanks. We're going to be taking a short little break and be back with our guest featured, and so stick around, and we'll be right back.
Are you presently part of the irrigation industry as a worker or business owner? Do you want to learn how you and your staff can boost your knowledge and productivity? Then you should check out Irrigator Technical Training School. Irrigator Tech is the leading source of quality instruction serving all facets of the irrigation industry. Their courses provide a basic, easy-to-understand approach that raises the skill level, competency, and professionalism of landscape and irrigation personnel through practical education and services. Irrigator Tech combines classroom and real-life hands-on training, leading to a well-recognized certification that both customers and employers demand. Irrigator Tech's specialized courses can help you quickly become a certified irrigation auditor or a certified installer, repair, maintenance, or backflow technician. Courses also include certificates in smart water application or becoming a certified tree worker. Most importantly, all certifications are state recognized, and Irrigator Tech offers annual renewal classes to help keep your certification up to date. So whether you work in California, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, or Arizona, there's an Irrigator Tech class near you. For more information on how to jumpstart your career, call Irrigator Tech toll-free 866-614-1755 or visit them on the web at irrigatortech.com. That's toll-free 866-614-1755 and on the web at irrigatortech.com.
Take control of your business anywhere, anytime with the SiteOne mobile app. Designed for contractors on the go, the app keeps you connected to your account wherever the job takes you. When you're signed in, you get full visibility into your personal account without needing a computer. Check your contractor-specific pricing, see real-time inventory, create custom lists, and reorder from your product history or saved lists in just a few taps. Scanning QR codes makes managing products even easier. You can quickly add items to a list, view product details, or add them to your cart in an instant. Need to approve a quote or pay a bill? You can do it right from your phone. Track your orders, view invoices, even redeem your partner's program points for rewards that give back to your business. Plan smarter with built-in project calculators that save time and help you quote with confidence. Logging in is quick and secure. Use Face ID or Touch ID for instant access. Customize your experience by choosing your preferred language in English or Spanish. Looking to level up your knowledge? Browse, learn, and explore videos and articles, or find local events to stay connected with your SiteOne community. The SiteOne mobile app puts the power of your business in your pocket.
The second half of the Waterzone show. We're waiting for our featured guest to call into the show. I have not heard from him, and he's not up on here in the book, so we're going to have to try to wing it. And we got two calls to him. I talked to him about an hour ago. He has everything set is ready, and I don't know what happened. Anyway, we'll continue. Anyway, what we're going to have is a gentleman, or would have, his name is Gary Brown, and Gary Brown is the head of Orange County Coastkeeper, and they're a great organization, and he was going to come in and tell us about a lot of things that they do. Give you a little history about their mission. His mission of Orange County Coastkeeper is to protect swimmable, drinkable, fishable water and promote watershed resilience throughout our region. They're a nonprofit clean water organization that serves as a proactive steward of the fresh and saltwater ecosystems. He works collaboratively with diverse groups in the public and private sectors to achieve healthy, accessible, and sustainable water resources for the region. And they implement innovative, effective programs in education, advocacy, restoration, research, enforcement, and water conservation. And he does a lot of stuff with them. I've done some projects with them a couple of years back, redoing a land that was owned by Southern California Edison. And it was a dirt field, and they had power towers on them. And it was on in the city of Orange. I'm trying to remember the street it was. It was several years ago, probably 8, 9 years ago. Can't remember the street. But anyway, it was a nasty-looking kind of thing, and we said, hey, we should make that a nice-looking place and put some nice vegetation in, low water use vegetation, all drip irrigation system stuff. And then within 2 months, it was the most beautiful blooming place that you've ever seen. And it was not an eyesore anymore for people driving up and down the main street there in the city of Orange. So some of their objectives, and I hope he's trying to dial in or call in. I've just called his place twice and sent him an email. And like I said, I spoke to him an hour ago. So got to deal with these things. That's what live radio is. So I'll try to do as well as he could do. So I'll talk about his objectives. That they build a regional collaborative approach to watershed management. They develop water quality solutions that meet the needs of both the environment and the community. He implements actions and programs that are well-defined and have measurable results, and ensures compliance with all Federal Clean Water Act and state, regional, and local environmental laws. And they conduct a lot of research to identify and quantify pollution impacts and provide sound evidence for policy and enforcement actions. So they do a lot of stuff. Some of the programs are interesting, and I'll kind of give a rundown of that. They do education, and they have a large staff, by the way, just so you know, even in-house attorneys and teachers. They also collaborate with Riverside Coastkeepers, and he does a good job at that. We have somebody else join the line? Nope, I don't see anybody join the line yet, so we'll keep going here. So they do education about whales, watershed heroes, actions linking education to stewardship, and that's why they call it WHALES. It's a Coastkeeper year-round educational program for the middle and high school students in Orange County. They do a lot with students, and that's a great thing. They start at a young age at kindergarten, go all the way up through high school, and even work with college kids. They have Kids Ocean Day, which is an annual celebration and calls to action for the protection of the world's oceans, almost like the Wyland Foundation, who gets really involved in clean water and ocean water and animals and things of that sort. And they're sponsored by the California Coastal Commission on Kids Day, Ocean Day, and it's hosted throughout the state by different organizations. Students get to explore watersheds and ecological concepts in their own community through in-class lessons and field activities such as hikes, water quality testing, treatment plant tours, tide pool explorations, habitat restoration, and more. Kids really like that kind of stuff. They like to get into the science and the technical aspirations of that. And it also gives kids an idea for a path for what they want to do in life. You know, a lot of people who got into the water business started out in the landscape business. They have, or their parents or relatives were in that business and got hooked up with water really early and how to protect the earth and sustain water in the land. And that's a great thing for kids to learn, because going to college is a good thing. I mean, I went to college, got my 2 degrees, but that doesn't mean you can't go without college and make a lot of money, like plumbers, for example. It's relating to water. I had a son that was a plumber, and you can make, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year just taking care of welding. And if anybody's watched the show Mike Rowe Works, he has a foundation that helps kids choose other pathways to a financial, situation that makes them healthy and have a good life and have nice things like nice cars and nice homes and support a family. And that's a good thing to do. And I know I pressured my kids to all go to college. 2 out of the 4 did. The other 2 didn't. The girls were the ones that did. The boys were the ones that didn't go. And my one son, my youngest son, is struggling. He's not poor, but he lives basically, what's the term? Paycheck to paycheck. And he lives in a high-rent district in Orange County, California. And he has to pay the bills. He has to pay his car expense, his insurance, and everything else. And he supports our granddaughter, his daughter, who goes to University of Arizona now. So, but he's struggling. And I said, why don't you look at something in the water industry? Like making backflow valves. Every major apartment and building has one. Has to be repaired and serviced and certified every year. You can make over $100,000 a year just doing that for a living. Simple. It's good, honest, clean work. And just as Mike Rose says, you can become a welder. Even the ones that pay a lot are the ones that work undersea, under the ocean, that do the big Navy ships and things. You can walk away with $200,000-300,000 a year just being a welder. Who knew? I went to school for electronics and physics. I could have been making a little bit more money doing the welding, but didn't know that then. But that's an important factor. Let's see what else we got that they do. They have a program called Drops, and it's called Drought Response Outreach Programs for Schools. It was a grant provided by the State Water Resources Control Board to Garden Grove Unified School District. Coastkeeper provided the education and outreach components at Santiago, Bolsa Grande, and also Los Alamitos High School, and their education staff curriculum to teach students about the low-impact design features and stormwater monitoring analysis was done by Coastkeepers, and so that's another thing that they provide. They also do online learning surveys. I'm trying to do this all from memory, so forgive me if I stumbled here a little bit. But they have a good thing going, and it's an excellent thing. Other programs they have, let's see, they do advocacy. That's an important factor, what they do. They have beach and coast accessibility programs. They have stormwater pollutions and MS4. They talk about desalination, which I'm really interested in. They talk about offshore drilling. They just found out a couple months ago that the state was secretly looking at doing some more offshore drilling, and they didn't really tell anybody about it, and they found out. Coastal public access, trash in the water. We see a lot of that, especially with PFAS and things of that. And, I'm trying to remember, I think it was back in 2015, the California State Water Quality Control Board put into motion a first of its kind statewide policy to prevent trash from reaching the state's water. And operating under that plan, the state's board's trash policy puts in place was a 10-year timeline for the state, cities, and counties to implement one of two paths for compliance, both aimed at getting to the eventual, obviously, no trash in our waters outcome. And the state board's trash policy puts into place a process for the state, cities, and counties to implement one of the two paths. So Orange County Coastkeeper welcomes this as a complement to its Measure M efforts that they help push through and bring people up to speed about that. And to date, every city in Orange County has applied and been approved for funding in a total of $37 million to reduce trash. So that's an interesting thing. I'm sure many of you have seen on television or the news or some science program, even National Geographic, the places in the ocean that have tons of circles of trash, and companies from Japan and Asia were picking it up and then recycling it. But they slowed down doing that because I guess, from what I understand, they didn't feel it was profitable enough for them to send crews and ships out there, spend all this time and haul it all back and try to reuse it again. But just like anything else, you got to think outside the box. My saying is you can't walk on water if you don't get out of the boat. And things that were impossible years ago are now possible. And we talked last week. We had a citizen call up and wanted to talk about water issues and such, and he brought up the subject he wanted to talk about is fracking. And we talked about how fracking pumps water in the ground to get the oil and gas up, but you also get what's called brine. And, what do you do with the brine? And so we had some other people on a couple of weeks before that, and they talked about how you can do mining of the brine. And that's a pretty new thing that people thought of, because there's lots of rare earth metals. As you know, our government is going around making deals with all these different countries throughout the world, trying to get rare earth materials so they can go into the AI business and batteries and technology. You need these materials to make things, also make circuit boards with silver and such. But we're going to hopefully have a company on in a couple of weeks that does magnesium, harvesting, and in the brine. And that's going to be a pretty interesting thing. So stick around. If you listen to us all the time, we try to come up with new subjects and new people to bring in that can help us be a sustainable planet and live safe. Some of the things that they do on research, going back to Orange County Coastkeepers, they do Santa Ana River mouth monitoring, helps protect sensitive species. Also influences land management at the Santa Ana River mouth, so that's a big deal. They have what's called berm buddies that monitors human and wildlife activity at the Aliso berm to influence local policy, because things need to happen with that. If I remember correctly, they talk about that program. It protects Aliso Creek sand berm, and it monitors wildlife. I think anthropogenic impacts of Aliso Beach and Treasure Island in the city of Laguna. The research sites are designated as marine protected areas in California and are well-known destinations for tourists and locals. Many of you in California have gone and looked at those, and it's pretty nice to take the kids there. They evaluate abundance and behavior of marine mammals and coastal birds, as well as observe potential violations such as illegal fishing activities, wildlife habitat disturbance, and I believe collection of biota. Excuse me. I need a sip of water here. I'm doing all the talking, and still no call in from Orange County Coastkeeper, so I'm sure they're having some technical difficulties at their end connecting into the system. Anyway, excuse me for taking a sip of water. Desperately need that. And they have a bar-built estuary located in Aliso Beach, in which sandbars, which they are called berms, is built up by ocean waves and currents and fed by Aliso Creek, which is the largest urbanized watershed in southern Orange County and spans 30 miles. And the berm protects the impact of the destructive ocean waves before they reach the Aliso Creek estuary and mainland, which helps protect everything. Sometimes the berm is completely washed away, leaving the coast more exposed and vulnerable to sea level rise, habitat degradation, pollution. So I believe, from what I understand when I had talked to Gary the other day, with his research, they aim to ensure enforcement of the Aliso berm as part of the state marine conservation area. And so they're into a whole bunch of different things. Restoration, we can talk about that. They have some current projects going on. They have one, shells for shorelines, which I thought was pretty cute. And it's an oyster recycling program that takes donated oyster shells from restaurants and repurposes them for native oyster restoration programs in Southern California. I didn't know they do that. I just found out about this the other day. And the initiative helps reduce food waste, lower program costs, and engage in the local community and marine science projects. And funding for those shells for shorelines is provided by National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, Amazon, Honda USA, the Dorrance Family Foundation, and individual donations. I never knew about this, and I think that's pretty cool that they do that. I guess that's the only way they can keep surviving these things. They say that, from what I understand, a lot of the oyster reefs are disappearing at an alarming rate. Oyster reefs in California have declined by, I'm taking a stab at 85% due to a combination of factors, including overharvesting, habitat destruction, water quality degradation, and oysters are a cornerstone of a healthy coastal ecosystem. They aren't just a tasty treat for some of us, but tiny titans in the ocean. Another thing which I'm curious about, ever since I had moved to California back in the 60s, I'm dating myself here. I wasn't that young then. But anyway, they used to have this thing called grunion hunting. And what was grunion hunting when I learned in high school? Well, you go out there at night with a pail and stuff and a flashlight, and all these little fish come flying up on the beach, and you collect them. Well, I always wondered, and nobody can tell me the answer, can you eat grunion? If anybody knows, call into the radio station and let me know that. I'd be really curious, because I don't know what you do with them. I've never seen them in real life. I've stayed out there, took my family there a couple of times when the kids were younger, spent 4 hours there. I was going to come in at 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning. We stayed there. We brought food. It's freezing out in the cold. Guess what? Nothing showed up. Now, I know people who went out a couple other times, and they said, yeah, we catch thousands of them. But they never tell me what they do with them. I don't know if they use them as bait. I don't know. To me, they look like large sardines, but never tasted one. I'm willing to try one if it's okay to eat. I have no clue. But anyway, that's what I found out. So what they do with these things, they partner, going back to this, some people like eating shucked oysters and shellfish at restaurants. Okay, I think they're kind of messy, but I do like them. I think they're good. I introduced my granddaughters a couple of years back when they were smaller to escargot, and once we told them what it was, carefully put their napkin up by their mouth and disposed of it. They didn't like it. I guess it's more in your mind of what it is. Just like when I went to Asia and the things you eat over there that you don't expect to be eating, and you find out what it is, and you got to deal with it, especially when you're with customers. Anyway, so some of these restaurants along Orange County, they partner with them and collect all the oyster shells in buckets after the meals. They pick them up. The coast keepers pick them up on a routine basis from the restaurants. They transport them to a drying facility. The shells bask in the sunrise for 1 year, undergoing a natural curing process that eliminates harmful pathogens and organisms. And after the year of rejuvenation, just like ghetto air conditioning, it can give you a rejuvenation, the shells find new purpose in projects like creating critical oyster beds for our living shorelines and shell string projects. That's a neat idea, and I'm glad they're doing that. They did that program was also captured on CBS in California, Channel 2, and highlighted a couple times for what they were doing, and I thought that was pretty cool. Let me see what else they do if I remember on my notes. I'm looking here. It has something called what was it called? Shell strings, and that was an interest of me. It's restoring the native population of oysters through this, and this is a different deal. The Shell String Project invites participants to Oyster Garden by caring for baby Olympia oysters. Each person can nurture a shell string, returning it at season's end to place the young oysters in restored beds. So I guess you get these and you take them home, and you get guidance how you handle the maintenance and grow them, and then after a certain period of time, you bring them back. And shell strings can only be placed where permission and permits have been granted from government agencies, and they don't want you to pollute with these things. So kind of quirky little things that I never heard that they do. It's amazing. They clean the oyster shells. They're drilled and strung on a wire rope, creating the needed home for the oyster larvae to settle on. And they act as an underwater nurseries for these Olympia-type oysters. And anyway, more interesting things. Over the summer, I know that the oysters start to grow and grow in the string shells. And at the end of summer, the oysters and the shells are growing and placed into restored oyster beds. So enough for the oysters, enough of that. That's a lot of stuff they do. They also, if you go to their website, it's pretty interesting. It's coastkeeper.org and or OC Coastkeeper, and they have a lot of action things that are in the news, some announcements for their teams. They talk about Orange Coastkeeper was condemning new federal offshore drilling plans. That's the one that somebody came up with that they found out they were doing and not telling anybody about it. That was happening. Let's see what else. They're also rallying against that. December 11th, they had a meeting in Orange County to rally against the offshore gas drilling off Southern California coast. And they found out about the leaked documents to expose that plan back in October. So they get a lot of information, and so does Maven's Notebook, Ms. Chris Austin, who you heard before the break. She does all our California water news, and she's real in tune to all of these things that are happening. And also they had a thing called What is the First Flush, and how does it impact the waters? Well, what it is, after a significant rain season like back in October, the rain brings much needed relief to the dry landscapes. It also makes a critical moment for our waterways. And you may have heard that saying, don't go into the ocean before it rains. I was always told that, but why is that? And what if we could change it? Well, as a voice, what Orange Coast Coastkeeper does, they want to explain the first flush means for our watershed and how individuals can help protect the coast. So when the first significant rainstorm of the season arrived in October, it triggered a phenomenon known as the first flush. And during the event, months of accumulated debris, trash, and pollutants from creeks, streets, flood channels, storm drains are washed directly to the ocean. And the harbors of Newport Beach, Huntington Beach, Dana Point often become clogged with tons of debris that can float for weeks. They wash ashore or sink and smother marine habitats. So along with the trash, the runoff carries pollutants such as oil, grease, and metals from the roads and industrial sites, and excess nutrients and pesticides from landscape, a bunch of junk that goes into this, and agricultural waste areas. All of this flows untreated into the local waterways. Stormwater runoff is the leading cause of ocean degradation in our region in Southern California and contributes to issues like domoic acid poisoning and harmful algae blooms. And that's another problem that California and a lot of the country has, is green algae blooms. But, as I said earlier in another thing, technology has come more advanced. What used to take 30 years or a generation to come up with something new, now every 6 months is coming faster and faster with new technology. Just look what AI is going to do for everything. When you want to think of something or come up with an idea or explore, ask somebody. You can ask the AI, and all of a sudden, within 5-10 seconds, you get an answer back of things you never thought of maybe you could do. We've talked to people who are involved with producing water after fracking, which we had on the show, and actually two people, and Dr. Frisk, who's going to be on, is going to talk about that on July 9th with us, or 8th with us, and mining for special metals. Also, there's a company we had on a couple of years back, probably 5 years ago, that makes cosmetics out of the algae bloom, and also could make certain vitamin enhancements, supplements out of that things. Now, who would think that you want to take green algae, which can kill fish and get kids sick and kill dogs and all this stuff, can be converted into something useful and helpful and beneficial for humans? But it happens. There's a lot of smart people, and it's an important thing to keep researching and then don't stop. So, what they also tell you for good stewardship, I'll talk about that for a second, is capture rain before it becomes runoff. Every drop, that we, out of a storm that helps drain, homeowners can capture and reuse water for irrigation. Businesses can treat and repurpose stormwater to support operations and reduce water use. I mean, there's so many things you can do, because all of you who like green and promote green, what Chris Davey and I always used to say in the show is, if you like green, you got to have blue. And blue is important because most of our most every human being in the world has 76% water in their body. If they don't, they're not living anymore. But so Orange Coast Keepers tell you basically, take action on the ground, do what you got to do. They're expecting more major debris buildup along the beaches, especially near outlets like the Santa Ana River mouth between Huntington and Newport Beach. And what I would suggest for you guys to do is go to their website, see all the things that they do, see what you can help to participate. It doesn't cost anything except for your time and your emotions and your objective to help keep the world good. And I think that's an important thing that everybody should do. And you're living on this earth. You want it to be here for your kids, your grandkids, and your family beyond that. And even still, while you're here, I think it's an important factor that everybody needs to think about. Give back to the world what the world gives to you. And I'm not a sad, emotional guy when it comes to stuff like this, but I want to live a long time. I want my kids and my grandkids and all my relatives and everybody in the world to live safely and happy and have clean water, be able to drink. A lot of places in the world don't have that. So anyway, I'm going to leave you with that. Enough of me talking for the day. My wife tells me I talk too much, but I never talked this much on the radio before. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. And remember, as I said, if you like green, you got to have blue. We'll be back in 2 weeks on January 8th. I think that's going to be a really interesting show. So stay safe, drive carefully, don't drink a lot, and if you do, don't drive. Good night, everybody, and have a good holiday.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda is sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future of working families. Teamsters1932.org.
For KCAA 1050 AM NBC News Radio and Express 106.5 FM. Metrolink's Paris Valley line is getting an upgrade. The Riverside County Transportation Commission has approved construction of a second passenger loading platform at the Paris South Metrolink station. 1,200 feet of new track will be constructed to allow two passenger trains to board and deboard at the same time. The marketing organization Greater Ontario, California, or GoCal, announced a new electric and hybrid shuttle service that plans to connect Ontario Airport with hotels and major destinations throughout the city and Rancho Cucamonga. The service is expected to debut January 26, 2026. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Miracle on Court Street, a wintry wonderland in the heart of San Bernardino,